There we have it, people. Another fight night is in the books, and T-Mobile Arena in Paradise, Nevada hosted UFC 296 in the final event of 2023. The entire main event was not as expected, but it was full of high-profile fighters, which is why your MMA Corner TV will be covering the event the right way. So let's dig into it before the dust settles. Josh Emmett versus Bryce Mitchell. In charge of opening the main event were Josh Emmett and Bryce Mitchell, who accepted the fight on short notice. Credit to Bryce for showing bravery, but this turned out to be a bad move in a short fight. Emmett comes in with a 2-fight losing streak after an absolute storm in the last 2 matches, and Bryce comes in as a last-minute replacement for injured Giga Chikadze. Nothing happened for 2 minutes, and then at the first clean shot, which was an overhand right by the heavy hands of Emmett, Bryce Mitchell was brutally knocked out, and it was all over. An incredible opening for the main card, with Josh visibly stunning Mitchell's brain with the violent blow, leaving him lying in a terrible seizure and a scary concussion. Josh also received the $50 bonus for performance of the night. Tony Ferguson versus Paddy Pimblett. The 39-year-old Ferguson can't compete with fighters at this level anymore. Paddy Pimblett fully justified the role of favorite by dominating washed-out Ferguson through 5 rounds and thus grabbed the 5th victory in a row. Tony started well at the beginning of the match and enjoyed the support of the fans in the T-Mobile Arena. But in the middle of the second round, Paddy woke up and reached his working temperature and started working more aggressively and beating Tony up. Ferguson spent a lot of time in the lower position from where he bled the Englishman's nose, but he also suffered damage when Pimblett reached full mount. El Kukui showed the courage that had always adorned him, but his body simply can't take it anymore, and it's a real shame that he didn't decide to retire after the match. It's clear to the whole world how his time has passed, but Ferguson isn't ready to accept that fact. Paddy won fair and square, and this time without controversy. It was nice for a change to see Pimblett less arrogant and more supportive of his opponent. Paddy said in his Octagon interview, "An absolute legend, everybody. Give applause for Tony Ferguson, an absolute legend of the sport, the legend of my division. It was an honor to share the cage with him, and Jesus Christ, man, how did he just survive the first round?" Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Stephen Thompson. Shavkat Rakhmonov had the toughest test so far, and his opponent was the dangerous striker in Stephen Thompson. But Nomad, as always, did not disappoint. He immediately closed the distance and put Wonder Boy against the fence, trying to take him down without success, but spending almost the entire round there. Even when he managed to move away, Stephen could not find success in the distance as Shavkat did his best to keep shortening it. Given that the recipe for victory against Thompson was exploited in previous fights against grapplers, Shavkat followed the same and already in the second round managed to take down the elite kickboxer and thus give him the first defeat by submission in his career just 10 seconds before the end. And Rakhmonov extends the perfect record to 18 wins. The victory was even sweeter for him, considering that he marked Kazakhstan's Independence Day. Shavkat also paid tribute to Wonder Boy and expressed his desire to fight for the title. Kazakh said in the post-fight interview, "Stephen Thompson is a very tough opponent, and I am happy I was able to finish him, and I believe I am worthy of a title shot. As one of the most exciting contenders in the welterweight, he could be the first man to dethrone the long undefeated Leon Edwards, and 2024 could be a big year for him." Alexander Pantoja versus Brandon Royval. In the first title fight of the night, newly minted flyweight champion Alexandre Pantoja had his first title defense against Brandon Royval. Royval sought revenge after the defeat in 2021 with the desire to win the championship. The first round was instantly decorated with aggressive attacks with quality exchanges. Pantoja hit middle kicks brilliantly and achieved the first takedown with a double leg in less than 2 minutes. He didn't allow his opponent to return to his feet until the end of the round, taking it in his favor. Even in the second round, Royval had no answer to Pantoja's takedowns, but he performed well in BJJ exchanges. In 30 seconds of the third round, Pantoja gets another takedown and full mount, but Royval pulls him into a trap and makes a reversal to fight for the top position, which, due to non-specific actions, returns the fight to stand up. There, Brandon found success with jabs from the counter guard over a tired Pantoja, who again relied on his wrestling and took down his opponent a minute before the end of the round, ending it there. Alexander's trainers told him at the end of the round that he had lost the third. In the fourth round, a takedown again, but with back control, where Roval went through some difficult situations considering that Alexandre is the master of RSC. Brandon pulled away with 30 seconds to go and continuously landed shots from the top position. The American had to go all or nothing with an open fight and stand up with precise attacks by Brandon, whose cardio form was top-notch. Visibly tired, Montoya didn't want to let the championship go so easily, especially because he was winning, and he continued to bring the fight back to the ground, where he held it until the end of the fifth round. The unanimous decision, as expected, Alexandre's hand was raised at the end, which showed that he was a level above. It won't be easy to dethrone him, but there are fighters like Brandon Moreno, Amir Albazi, and other challengers who can't wait for their turn in 2024 in the flyweight division. Alexandre said in the post-fight interview, "I feel dizzy after this fight. This guy didn't stop any time for 5 rounds. It's emotional. I love that kid. I know he will try to come and take this belt again, and I'm going to stay here to defend." The Brazilian expressed his Christmas wish to defend his title in Brazil in the next match. When asked about his next opponent, Montoya said that he has no problems making another fight against Brandon Moreno, who must first go through Amir Albazi. Who doesn't like Brandon Moreno? He's a cool guy, but I beat him 3 times, and that is 3-0 for me. And if he wants to come back, I'll make the 4th, said Montoya. However, his current focus is on spending the New York holidays with his family. After winning the title and defending it in 2023, Montoya should be given some time to rest, as he deserves it. Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington. With too much talk and too little action, Leon Edwards defended his welterweight title against Colby Covington in a rather dull match. Considering that the American had made Edwards furious by mentioning his dead father at the press conference, Leon couldn't wait for fight night to punish him. Apparently, Colby had too much respect for Edwards' striking because he didn't press the opponent as we're used to, which suited Leon, who controlled the middle of the cage. He confused Colby with guard changes and quality mixing of punches and kicks. The first round passed passively on Colby's side and patiently on Leon's. Covington obviously entered the match with a mental block because he was unable to threaten with anything, even in the second round, and he would have been punished whenever he was shortening the distance. The champion controlled the fight and the distance, being more precise with his punches, causing damage and slowing down the challenger with low kicks. Everyone watched Covington in confusion because he was not even the shadow of a fighter who dealt with Usman. Leon continued to dismember him up in the third. Every shot was perfectly placed and was good at blocking incoming hits, and Edwards was maximally tactical and efficient. Colby woke up in the third, but not enough, and went for the takedown, but without success to keep the champion on the ground. Leon countered with a double-leg takedown to show Covington how he could match him in the wrestling aspect. The thigh of the American's right leg was destroyed and prevented him from moving around the cage. Covington only started to activate slightly in the fourth, but every attempt he made would be smothered by the champion. The combination of Edwards' strength and technique seemed like a huge obstacle for Colby, and the champion bravely engaged in unnecessary wrestling scrambles with Covington. The American did a solid job in the fourth, especially if we compare the 3 rounds before that, but nothing that would threaten Leon's crown. In the 5th round, Colby gets taken down, but Edward uses his skills again and gets back to his feet, and then again to the grounder with a submission attempt. Colby took advantage of the opportunity and kept the welterweight king on the floor for the rest of the match, which was not even close to turning it around for the win. It was far from Leon beating up Covington, but it can be said that he established his game plan in a school-like and routine manner and outwitted him tactically and technically. Colby barked a lot, but did too little when it came time for action, and we believe that even Donald Trump isn't satisfied with his performance because he got up and headed for the exit during Colby's interview. Covington was unjustifiably surprised by the referee's decision, but everyone else was delighted by his defeat, regardless of the weak fight. Leon said in a post-fight interview, "This fight was very emotional for me. This guy used my dad's death for entertainment, my dad's murder for entertainment. It took a lot for me to calm down and stay focused. After the press conference, I went backstage. I was crying just from the rage. He said my dad should burn in hell." Although it bothered Leon that he couldn't punish him with a knockout, the champ did a great job both in this match and throughout this year, and it'll be interesting to watch him in his next title defense. We all expected a war at the end of the year, but we didn't get it. Whoever slept through this event will not regret it, and we will end the year with a slight disappointment. But hey, we hope our video cheered you up. Don't lose heart because 2024 is knocking on the door, and we'll be on the front line of attack to cover the next fights.